Awful quiet in here this morning. Sorry I had to get my mess up off the stage back there. How's everybody doing this morning? Good. All right, so let's kick this off. Am I good on volume out there, everybody? Sounds like it's a little hot, maybe? All right. I'm going to do this. I got to get away from y'all a little bit. All right. Get some energy up. All right. Nerves down, energy up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, for those in the lobby, the groups and kids worship, and for everyone watching from home, hopefully it's a lot of people. Here we go. Let's get ready to worship. Step into the ring of life. In this corner, we've got scarcity, fear, and the thief of joy. And I'm hot up here. And in the opposite corner, abundance, purpose, and divine gratitude. It's not just a fight, it's your calling. Today we talk about living full, not just having more, but living with more meaning, more gratitude, and more God. Hopefully David's going to get me turned down a little bit.
You want to tell them what hot means?
Yeah, when I say hot, obviously it's hot under these lights, but hot's when I'm getting the echo back, the feedback. So there's a little echo in my voice. Think that's better? Check, check. Can everybody hear me? All right, let's go. So today we're going to talk about the power of abundance and gratitude. Penny, can you hit the video for me?
We're down 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Gossage against Say. The whole season may be wrapped up in this pitch. Popped up. Munson. This could be it. He's got room. He's waiting. The Yankee bench on the field. Yankees are the champions. Ron Say pops out. There's the Dodger bench. And the Yankees head for the clubhouse. The champions.
Not put in this situation. Bellamy almost gets him there. See, that's where you'd like to see him throw it away. Nobody's open. You got to give up on the play, throw it away, get outside of the pocket and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Balboa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Okay. So I'm sure everybody out there now is going, what is this guy doing? Where is he going with this, right? So let's do a little homework first. Roll Tide. If anybody has a phone on them, make sure you don't answer that phone or text during this service. Because right now, somewhere, if Nathan Dye has connectivity to us, he's calling somebody in this room to fire me on the spot, okay? So the Alabama over Georgia, gotta love it. Okay, so the reason I pull that up, obviously, I've got ties back to the Yankees. So the Yankees they've won 27 world championships. Now, when we say world championships, they don't play everybody in the world, so I'm not sure why it's called the world championship. We'll just call it that. So I became a fan in 1977. It's really when I first got introduced to baseball, 100%. So since 1977, they've won 7 world championships. So is that a lot? How many people in here hate the Yankees? At least 1, 2, 3, yeah. We got a lot of them coming up. Okay. And I hear a lot of people say, well, you're on the bandwagon. Well, if they've won 7 championships since 1977, they really haven't won a lot, right? And how about Alabama? Obviously, I love Alabama football. Coastal Carolina graduate, but we didn't have football when I was at Coastal, but I've always been an Alabama fan. I actually applied to one school out of high school, and that was Alabama. Got in, and out-of-state fees came charging through the door, and my parents said, not happening. So stayed in South Carolina for school. So Alabama's won 18 national championships. Obviously, that was one of the greatest. You know, no offense to Nathan, but roll tide. So I became a fan of Alabama in 1978. And that's 3rd grade for anybody that's doing their homework. So in 47 years, they've won 9 national championships. So in my 47 years of being a fan, 9 championships, really not a lot, right? A lot compared to some other people, but not a lot if you think about the big picture. So backing up a little bit, the Yankee clip, that was from 1978, and that was the year that the Yankees made the biggest comeback in Major League history to that point. I think they were down 14 games at the end of August. Why it means a lot to me, my grandfather was somewhere on that field when they won. So that was the 3rd ring he won, 2 as a coach and 1 as a pitcher with the Dodgers in '59, which that's the ring that I wear every day. So Jesus said in John 10:10, I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. What do you hear when you hear about abundance? Abundance means a lot, right? So Alabama and the Yankees have an abundance of championships, but it doesn't mean they win every year. There's up and downs in life. So what's the definition of abundance? A very large quantity of something. The state or condition of having a copious quantity of something. Plentifulness. And plentifulness of the good things of life, prosperity. So, what kind of life are we living? What do we think about when we think of abundance? When Jesus spoke of giving us life to the full or more abundantly, he wasn't promising a life free from trouble. He wasn't saying we'd never face hardship, loss, pain, or confusion. Instead, he was promising a fullness of life that transcends our circumstances. Too often we define abundance by what's visible: possessions, achievements, comfort, world championships, national championships. But in Christ, abundance is spiritual, it's relational, it's eternal. It's not about excess, it's about essence. So, what are we saying about abundance? It's not a trouble-free life. John 16:33 says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Jesus never hid the reality of life's hardships. He warned us, trouble is guaranteed, but so is his presence, his peace, and his victory. So if you think about stories from the Bible, you think about Daniel in the lion's den. Don't want to be there. You think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. That's a hard word to say, by the way. You think about them in the fire, what they went through. You think of David, the man after God's heart. He experienced high moments of victory. He slayed Goliath. But he also had deep valleys where he's hiding from Saul or grieving over his sin. Yet through it all, he could still write, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So God uses the ups and downs to shape the depths of our faith. Romans 5:3-5 says, we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. And perseverance produces character. And character produces hope. Now, those valleys often become the greatest classrooms of our faith. Through pain, we learn perseverance. Through loss, we discover hope. And through weakness, we experience God's strength. Think about Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery, wrongfully imprisoned, but God used every down to prepare him for a greater up. God doesn't waste your pain. It's part of your purpose. And this is like gravely clear. Anybody in here know who Horatio Spafford was? Anybody? Good. We'll learn something today. So, he lived from 1828 to 1888. Successful lawyer, real estate investor in Chicago. He and his wife Anna had 5 kids. 1 son, 4 daughters. They lived a life of philanthropy and service to their church until 1871. In 1871, they lost their 4-year-old son to scarlet fever. And a few months later, the Chicago fire wiped out the majority of their property holdings. So they made it through the next 2 years, obviously grieving. And in 1873, tragedy struck again. So the Spaffords had planned to visit Europe as a family, but the business kept Horatio behind. On the voyage, the ship Anna, his wife, and their 4 daughters were traveling on, struck another vessel and sank rapidly. Only Anna survived. So he lost his 4 daughters. So Anna sends a telegram to Horatio bearing the words, "Saved alone." Receiving Anna's message, he set off at once to be reunited with his wife. And one particular day during the voyage, the captain summons him to the bridge of the vessel. Pointing to the charts, he explained that they were actually passing over the very spot where the ship had sank and where his daughters had perished. And it's said that at that point, Spafford returned to his cabin and wrote the He returned to his cabin and wrote the hymn, "It is well with my soul." His faith in God never faltered. He later wrote to Anna's half-sister, "On Thursday last, we passed over the spot where she went down in mid-ocean. The water's 3 miles deep. But I do not think of our dear ones there. They're safe, dear lambs." A little bit tougher to get through that than I thought it was going to be. So number 3, abundant life is a daily trust in God's goodness. Our scripture here is, "I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living." Even in your struggles, the goodness of God is not absent. It may not always be loud, but it's always present. Look for the little mercies, the unexpected peace, the quiet strength. Oftentimes we want to give up or give in. So there was a philosopher once that talked about how hard life hits. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Famous philosopher. Man, great words, right? Was it Aristotle? Was it Socrates? No, it was Rocky Balboa, right? So anybody that thought I was going to get up here today and not talk about music, movies, or sports, I'm out. So faith doesn't always change the storm, but it changes you in the storm. So in April, I was riding pretty high. Everything was going, just clicking right along. You know, my captain had turned off the fasten seatbelt sign. I'm cruising along, pretty high altitude. My oldest son, Tristan, was getting married on April 5th. So we were going to Charleston to, to celebrate the wedding. And I was in the car with my mom and my sister. Jenny and Dalton, my youngest son, had already gone down to Charleston, so, we were making our trip on that Friday morning. So I had a conference call scheduled with my bosses at 10 a.m. We're about 15 minutes outside the venue, and my boss calls. So I put him on speaker, not thinking anything about it, and he lets me go. No warning. So the plane dipped in altitude a little bit. So that weekend, I had to put on my acting face. For those of y'all that don't know, I was actually an actor for a brief moment in LA. So I put on my best face for the situation we were in. We made it through the wedding. They're happy, we're happy. So we come back and I start looking for a job the next week. I had 3 phone interviews the first week. I had 2 in-person interviews the following week. I figured something was about to happen. Nothing happened. So I'd gotten into a routine. I would get up in the morning, do my reading that I do every morning. Then I would search the internet a little bit for a job, of course. And then I would go work out. On April 28th, so this would be going into the 4th week of not having a job, I started to question why. And some of you in the room know more details about what happened, but I'll kind of skim the surface a little bit. But I will share something that I haven't shared with anybody yet. Before I went to the gym that morning, I prayed to God and I said, I don't understand why I'm not getting any kind of answers on this. I really don't understand. So I'm a knucklehead. So sometimes if you're trying to show me something, I don't see it. But, could you please show me something today? Show me a reason. About 5 hours later, well, I'll back up with this. So James Merritt's one of my favorite pastors. And he says that God's going to answer prayer one of 3 ways. He's going to say yes, he's going to say no, or he's going to say not right now. Okay? So back to my story. 5 hours later, he answered me. And I'm a knucklehead. But his answer was very clear. Because 5 hours later, there was a fire truck and an ambulance in my driveway. And they were loading my wife up to take her to the hospital, unconscious. Had I been anywhere else, I'd promised my mom that I was going to come help her do some yard work that day. If I'd been with my mom, Jenny wouldn't be here right now. If I'd have been at work, if I'd still been working in Cherryville, North Carolina, she wouldn't be here right now. If I'd have gotten one of those 3 jobs that I interviewed for, she wouldn't be here right now. So, over the next 2 weeks, I asked why a bunch of times. Why? Somebody show me something, tell me why. But it really doesn't matter why. Because all that matters is the who. He's in charge. And he held me up, stood me up, and we made it through it. So from the very beginning, God's creation was abundant. Stars beyond number. Oceans teeming with life. And grace that overflows. Think about the grace that we have every day. Psalm 23:5 says, you prepare a table before me, and my cup overflows. Abundance is not about possessions. It's about the presence of a generous God. How generous is our God this morning? Anybody? Anybody? All right. So number 5, gratitude is the gateway to abundance. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Gratitude. We need to be grateful. We need to be thankful for the smallest things. So gratitude shifts your mindset from what you lack to what you have. So we're going to sit around and bellyache about what we don't have instead of looking back and saying, hey, you know what, I do have it pretty good. Look at this church we're in this morning. We got it pretty good. From what's missing to who's faithful. Think about who's faithful to you every day. You know, God's faithful all the time, but think about the people in your life that show up every day when they don't have to show up. Jesus thanked God before multiplying the loaves and the fish. Gratitude precedes miracles. When your hands are clenched in complaint, they're too full to receive. You can't receive anything with a closed fist. But when they're open in thanksgiving, you make room for God to pour out more. That's why I love seeing people worship with their hands up, trying to receive. Abundance is a way of seeing, not a set of circumstances. Number 6. Paul said, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. A lot of times, I know Tim Tebow wore the Philippians 4:13 on his eye black. And a lot of times I think we kind of skip over the preceding verses. So let's think about that again. You know, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. I agree with that. But what he said before that, what Paul said before that is, I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. It's not all going to be good. It's not going to be unicorns and rainbows all the time. Abundance is not in what's around you, it's in what's within you. Peace in the storm, joy in the trial, and faith in the famine. Stop measuring abundance by your bank account. Start measuring it by your heart, your hope, and your eternal inheritance. What are you going to inherit when you leave here? Hopefully it's everything you dreamed of. Number 7, gratitude unlocks joy, generosity, and worship. Grateful people are joyful because they recognize every good gift is from God. They're generous because they know it's not about holding on, it's about giving out. Worshipful because thankfulness needs, well, let me try that again. Because thankfulness leads to praise. Thankfulness is a long word, especially with this southern accent. All right, so 2 Corinthians 9:11 says, you'll be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Y'all still with me? All right. So, number 8. Live like you have more because you do. Ooh, that cuts pretty deep right there, huh? So how many Jims do we have in the room? Anybody named Jim in the room? Anybody named Jim in the room? Got a couple of Jims. So this Jim on the front row right here, is the reason I'm standing in front of you right now, because I'm pretty sure that he may have went to Nathan and said, why don't you let Pete preach one more time? So if you like what I did this morning, thank you. If you don't like what I did this morning, you talk to Jim. So in 1972, we'll get back to music again, of course. Jim Croce wrote a song called You Don't Mess Around with Jim. And I don't know, there's probably a lot of the younger people in here probably don't know this song, but some of the older people probably know it. It says, you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim. Do 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 dee 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 dee. If you don't remember anything else today, I want y'all to hum that on the way home. Do 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 dee 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 dee. Right? Everybody got it? We want to try it? Let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Do 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 dee 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 dee. Y'all got to do it the rest of the day. All right. So, being grateful in Christ should give you an inner peace that surpasses every negative thought and situation. You know, if you listen to you mess around with Jim, that's what we need to walk around every day. It's not about arrogance, not about being cocky, but being confident in knowing that we got somebody that's looking out for us all the time. You have more grace than you know. Think about all the grace that we have. You have more access to the throne than the richest king. Wow. That's pretty impressive. You have a future so bright, eternity can barely contain it. All right, so I'm going to throw something else at you. Timbuk 3. Anybody know the band Timbuk 3? 1986. Anybody remember 1986? They had a song about my future so bright I got to wear shades. Oh yeah, I hear it out there. Doing all right, getting good grades, the future's so bright. I got to wear shades, right? Romans 8:32. He who did not spare his own son, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? We have it made, guys. We have it made. So gratitude is how we guard the abundance. Got to guard it, right? The enemy can't take what God gives, but he can steal your awareness of it. So in the movie The Usual Suspects, not the greatest for language, but it'll go well with what I'm about to tell you. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. Just kind of hiding in the shadows. And yesterday, I played Kudzu Wars at the house. Anybody playing Kudzu Wars this summer? So the land that backs into my land is going berserk. I actually read last night where a kudzu can grow up to a foot a day. Man, I wish I had a little kudzu in my blood. I'd have been a little bit taller. Might be able to hit the ball a little bit harder. But so when I was looking at the kudzu yesterday, I was sitting there thinking about how it grows. So it grows every which way it can. Basically, it'll grow over at the top of something and choke it out. Whatever it can do, it's got a plan. Kudzu's got a plan. And I think about that like same thing the devil does. The devil weaves his tricks. He's in and out. He'll do whatever. He'll choke out whoever he's got to choke out. Right? And what do we do about it? Can we defend every trick that the devil has? Can't do it. This right here is our defense. Every defense is in this book. Right? Take your time to read it because it'll prepare you for what you're about to walk into. Otherwise, you're going to be blindsided and you're going to be upset because you don't know what's going on. When you lose gratitude, you stop seeing abundance. Any negative Nancys in here? At least one. So I get a kick out of walking up to people and saying, hey, how you doing this morning? And I have a lot of people that obviously is sarcastic, and there's a lot of sarcasm in the world. They'll look at me and say, living the dream. Living the dream. So my answer to that is really one nightmare at a time. So the conversation kind of goes like this. How you doing? How you doing today? Living the dream. Really? One nightmare at a time? What? Then I think they realize, man, life ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. You're going to have some peaks and valleys. Life ain't that bad. So when you choose thanks, even in trouble, you'll find you're living full, even if the world says you're empty. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and watch a lot of videos. There's a, let me take a Powerade pause. Sorry, guys. So there's a guy named Rick Rigsby. I don't know if anybody know Rick Rigsby in here at all? Okay, good. We'll learn something else today. He's got a speech where he says it's lessons from a third grade dropout. So Rigsby idolized his dad. And, he talks about all the education that him and his brother had, but his dad was still the smartest person in the world. And he stopped working, or he stopped going to school in third grade and, started raising the family that he had then, and then he raised his own family with his own sons. But he said his dad would always say, how you living? How you living? And Rigsby met his wife in college his freshman year, and they had some kids, and then his wife was stricken with breast cancer, and it took her away. But before her death, she looked at Rick and said, it doesn't matter how long I live. It matters how I lived. So how you living? His dad gave 7 points. I held up 8. Sorry. Broom math. It's a joke. So his dad had 7 points. Number 1, do not judge. Do not judge. Number 2, show up early. In our house, the Fowler house, we were all on Coach's standard time. That's 15 minutes early is on time. If you're later than 15 minutes early, you are late. Okay? 3, be kind. That's the easiest thing in the world to do is be kind. 4, make sure that servant's towel is huge and used. Wow, how many of us are actually using our servant's towel? Probably not as much as we should. Number 5, if you're going to do something, do it the right way. Right? Number 6, it's never wrong to do the right thing. We got choices to make, right? And last, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you slough along, then you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Right? Okay. So how you living? I recently finished a song called The Six. It's not a Fox News show, or not the new Fox News show. It's not about pallbearers. But I've been singing the chorus for about 3 years. And then my new favorite best friend, who's my new favorite best friend? AI! I said, hey, little buddy, can you help me finish this up, little buddy? A minute and a half later, we are rolling in the Fowler house. So the point of the song is, you know, you're going to have ups and downs, but there's, and I'll give you a little bit of song here in a few minutes, but kind of falls back into what Rocky Balboa said, you know. It's not all going to be great all the time. So here's the lyrics. I was 22 and feeling bulletproof. He was sitting on a porch swing with worn-out boots. Said, son, I've seen some things you wouldn't believe, so listen close. This ain't just advice, it's how to breathe. He took a slow sip of sweet iced tea. That's a lot of S's in a row, all right? We may have to tweak that a little bit. He took a slow sip of sweet iced tea, smiled like he had seen the storm, and found some peace. Then he pointed to the sky, and said with a nod, there's 6 little truths that'll bring you closer to God. Not all phone calls end with I love you. Not every doctor says you're going to make it through. And sometimes even the good guys get booed. You can fall in love on a first date. Not all superheroes wear a cape. And it's always better to be seen than be viewed. That's the 6. Anybody? 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 So life will be full of ups and downs. We know that. The Bible tells us that. Everyone has shoes to wear and a cross to bear. Right? So what you see on the outside, social media, is usually not 100% of what's really happening on the inside. Because you never know what shoes somebody's wearing. Run your race. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Bobby Cox was the most successful manager in the history of the Atlanta Braves. He's the only person I know that was given the direction to keep up with the Joneses. Anybody with me? Andrew Jones and Chipper Jones. That's the Joneses. That's the Joneses he was keeping up with. He wasn't trying to keep up with everybody else. He's keeping up with the Joneses on his team. So, speaking of shoes. David reminded me earlier, Mama said these were my magic shoes. Right? Me and Jenny were just like peas and carrots. Right? All right. So speaking of shoes, these shoes right here. That's my grandfather's first set of spikes he wore. So I can tell you these got some age on them. And I don't know how well you can see them, but these definitely weren't air anything. These were like walking on your feet, period. So how he played through that, no idea. But they were given to him by Carl Hubble, who was a professional pitcher at the time. And I don't know the exact year. I mean, it's probably, I would say sometime around the mid-40s to 50s. So there's some old shoes. So there are a few reasons why I'm not wearing them today. One, they don't fit me. Two, I'm not a baseball player anymore. And probably most importantly for everybody in here sitting around, you're probably glad I'm not wearing spikes up here chopping up this floor that we paid for. So this is not a game-worn jersey, but it's a replica of what he wore in 1954 with the Cincinnati Reds, his rookie season. You see, I don't know the shoes that my grandfather walked in. And I don't know how David felt during his trials and tribulations. And I don't know the pain that Jesus felt on the cross or the pain that he feels when I let him down on a daily basis. What I can tell you is I'm grateful for all of them. Now my shirt's probably untucked. There's two kinds of people in this world. They're the ones that light up the room when they walk into it, and they're the ones that light up the room when they walk out of it. So I ask you this morning, which one are you? Think about that for a moment. How you living? How you living today? Do you live life like you don't mess around with Jim? Now don't do dee 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 dee. Y'all got to remember that. So I was supposed to cue Garrett. I hope he's on his way. I'd like for everyone for the next 30 to 45 seconds just to sit down. Obviously, you're sitting down, so we already got that whipped. But sit back in silence and list what you're thankful for. Think about that for a few seconds. Everybody got it in their head? Okay. Here's my final charge for you this morning. Live full. Think hard. And when the world asks you how you're doing, don't just say fine. Don't say, living the dream. You need to look at that person and say, I'm living in the overflow. Because that's what happens when abundance meets gratitude in the heart of a child of God. I'll let Garrett get up here and start playing. Like I said, my fault, I didn't cue him. If y'all will, bow with me in prayer. Lord, help me not to measure abundance by what I hold in my hands, but by what you've placed in my heart. Teach me to treasure your presence above all else and to recognize your goodness in every season. May our lives overflow, not with things, but with thankfulness. Thank you, God, for your faithfulness, provision, and presence, no matter what the season. And as we come to this time of invitation right now, I want to thank y'all for letting me speak today. Please keep Nathan and his group, our missionary group, in your prayers. And really, take away from today what you should be grateful for, because there's always something.